What's good, YouTube? In today's video, I'm going to be talking about how to finance your inventory for your online clothing brand. If you don't know me, my name is Dahl. I'm the founder CEO of 3 Nails. We're a premium faith-based activewear company based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I built my clothing brand out of my garage with $126 in my pocket and a bunch of credit card debt. I've been able to scale it into a $5 million company just 5 years later. So I don't say those things to impress you, but just to show you a little bit of credibility that I know a little bit about what I'm talking about, and hopefully you guys can take some value from today's video. So without further ado, let's get into it. So for my brand, I'm 100% bootstrapped. I don't have any investors. In the early days, I just used my own cash. I had credit cards that I maxed out to be able to fund my own inventory for myself. And then once you get to a level where you're able to have sales, able to have consistency of monthly sales, month after month, you're able to go to Fintech Companies, as we call them, which is Shopify Capital, Clearco, Wayflyer, Kick Further. There's so many different companies out there now that will gladly give you money as long as you are a Shopify store and you have revenue. These companies don't even check your credit at all, which if you don't know my story, you can go ahead and look in the description. I've got a link that'll tell my whole story. It's like a 30-minute video. I am not gonna explain that here, but my credit went to crap after my wife got sick and I lost my job and my back was against the wall for 3 Nails to really work out. Thank God everything worked out, but my credit just went down so bad, just given the circumstance of what I went through, the hardships during those few years. And so using these Fintech companies was such a blessing during that time because no one had to check my credit. And I know there's a lot of people out there struggling with credit. So Fintech companies really are a great place to start. Shopify Capital was the first company that I went with. My first ever loan that I took was with Shopify Capital, and it was for $1,100. And it helped just fund a little bit of inventory for me. And then from there, I was able to take out the next round of capital with Shopify Capital for like $6,000. And that actually helped me fund my inventory for Black Friday of 2019. If you know my story, that's when my whole brand turned around for the better and was able to skyrocket in growth, and my company has never been the same since then. So that $6,000 loan really helped with that. But the one drawback on these Fintech companies is that you have to pay a daily remittance rate. So if you take out a loan for $6,000, sometimes you have to pay back 12% of your daily sales, 15% of your daily sales, 17% of your daily sales. So just breaking down how these Fintech companies operate is they give you 3 offers. So the lowest one will be the lowest offer money-wise. So let's just say they offer you $3,000 at a 10% remittance rate. They'll offer you $4,500 for a 15% daily remittance rate. And then they'll give you the most amount of money for $6,000 at a 17% daily remittance rate. And then amongst all 3 of these options, the cost of borrowing will be higher the more money you take. Let's just say the lowest option will give you 6% cost of borrowing. Second option, 10%. And then the third option, 12%. So the more money you take from these companies, the more money they want on a daily remittance rate, and then the more money they want for their flat fee, which is their interest rate. They like to say it's not an interest rate because it's not month after month. They just want one flat fee, and it's based off your daily sales. So if you have a slower month, you don't have to pay as much money. And if you have a great month, then you're paying faster. And if you're anything like my brand, fast growing, it's been a challenge when you have to pay so much money back within a short amount of time. So if you're growing really fast, you got to pay back that daily sales amount, and they're going to be getting their money, instead of maybe 3 to 6 months within the next month or 2. And then you have to be able to take out the next round of capital to be able to fund your next inventory order. So there's definitely pros and cons to taking out these micro loans with these Fintech companies, but how else are you going to grow, right? Like, you can have your own cash on hand and that's great, but you still got to pay your rent, still got to pay debt back, you got to pay your employees, you got many different expenses, right? Like software, apps, just everything in your business, that's an expense. At the end of the day, you have to be able to back that with your own cash. So the loans for us has been really critical to be able to take out these micro loans, be able to fund our inventory orders. In the early days, these loans had to fund 100% of my inventory. And so I don't know if you guys understand how it works, but when you work with your supplier, especially overseas, all you have to do is put down maybe 50% down. And then once it's completed 2 months later, then you pay the remainder 50% and then it gets shipped out to you. If you're able to negotiate that down, like we have been able to, I've heard of brands that are able to do 20% down, 30% down. And then once it's done, 2 months later, then you can finish paying the remainder balance and then they'll ship it to you. So my suggestion would be, don't take out a loan just to put down 30% or 50% down. Use your own cash. You should have enough cash on hand to put down 50% of the order, or at least 30% of your order, and then take out a loan to be able to pay the remaining balance once it's finished, and then it'll ship to you. Hopefully you guys are shipping by sea and not by air, because air is stupid expensive. Shipping by sea is able to get to our warehouse between 30 and 35 days, so that's definitely the better route to go. So these are just the struggles that e-commerce brand owners experience. People don't talk about this enough. Coaching businesses, service-based businesses, they have different expenses, but they don't have to buy a ton of inventory to have on hand. And especially being bootstrapped and not having investors, you have to come up with cash on your own. And if you don't have the cash, then you're gonna have to take out good debt. And I'm not gonna go Dave Ramsey on you, but there is definitely such thing as a good debt and a bad debt. I do believe that in my heart. I think that bad debt is terrible. Any consumer debt where it is not an asset, it's a liability. So materialistic things like a car, TV, monitors for your video gaming setup, things that are taking money from you that aren't an asset that is putting money back into your pocket, right? So good debt, taking out a loan to be able to purchase inventory, which then you can flip for a profit 2 months later, 3 months later, however you can get your inventory to you sooner. That's an asset, so that's good debt to me. Which in turn brings up another thing, which is risk management. And I was just having a conversation with 2 brand owners of another fitness clothing brand out there, and just talking about how one of the biggest issues that I personally see and other aspiring entrepreneurs out there, so people who may be early in their brand or haven't started their brand yet, they just have no stomach to risk in life. They want to play it too safe. They don't want to get a credit card. They don't want to go get a loan. They don't want to put their backs against the wall. They want to just play it really safe and just use their own money to fund a little bit of inventory and then be able to flip that and keep going. And that's okay. Like, I'm not here to tell you that that's wrong and that if you want to play the slow game. However, if you really want to make it big and try to shortcut the process to success, to run a successful company, you have to risk. Like, you can't be afraid to take out a credit card and max it out to be able to fund inventory, especially if you know you have a good product and you know that the market is going to purchase it. Like, you have to put your money where your mouth is, and you have to be able to risk in life. And especially if you're young, you're actually potentially taking a bigger risk on your life by not taking that leap of faith, by not taking that big risk that your life needs. I just feel like people have gotten really soft and weak, and they just don't want to risk. They don't want the consequences of what can happen. But when you go all in on your brand, when you go all in on the vision that God has given you, it's amazing to see how things just fall into your lap. How the networking, how the connections, how the systems just fall into place naturally. When you go all in, you put your back against the wall when there is no point of return. You have to make it work. And so I never am going to condone taking debt. However, I will talk about this because no one talks about it. Everyone's afraid to talk about debt. Like, for me, these are the videos that I'm recording for you guys to provide you that I wish I would have had when I first started my brand 5 years ago. Like, debt is a tool. It is a loaded gun. You can use it for good or you can use it for evil. If you know how to use debt to your ability for your benefit, it is an amazing tool. I would not be where I am today with 3 Nails if I wouldn't have been able to take out loans, especially in the early days. So I just want to encourage you guys, you just need to learn how to use it. Fintech companies are an amazing tool if you know how to use them. You can go get lines of credit at your bank. You can go get multiple lines of credit to be able to hold over things. You could go get an SBA loan if you really wanted to. There's a lot of short-term and long-term debt options out there. Again, for like my truths, majority of what has helped me grow so fast is just the fact that I've been able to use fintech companies to take on short-term debt to be able to flip our inventory orders, which has allowed us to bring in more cash flow. And I take that cash and then I put it down on the next deposit for the next inventory order. And that's how we've been able to run things and do so well financially. And then going off of that, I will say risk management is huge. Whether you're doing it yourself in the early days or if you have a team of employees that are able to help you out with your risk management, right? You have to take big risks. You have to be very aggressive in the early days, but once you start making some money, you can't just put all your eggs in one basket. You can't take everything that you make and throw it all in inventory, because then how else are you gonna pay your bills at the end of the month, right? You gotta make payroll, you gotta make rent, etc. So you have to be very careful, and you have to have your own risk management set up. And I'm not gonna get into it in today's video, but there's so many free resources out there on Google and YouTube that you guys can look up of just how to assess your own risk management in your business to understand how much inventory you should be able to purchase. The last thing I want from you guys is to look at me and be like, okay, Derek's telling me to just make as much money as possible, throw it all into inventory and just repeat this process, take out bigger loans, more inventory, and like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I don't want you guys to take huge amount of risk every single time and potentially put yourself in a difficult situation or challenging situation. You have to be the one to make that call at the end of the day. All that I'm saying is that in the early days, I put my back against the wall when I needed to. It was a necessity for myself to succeed. I knew that I needed a loan to be able to fund inventory for Black Friday 2019. And if I would have never taken that loan, I never would be where I'm at today. So I think it's just super important to understand there's so many different brands out there that just operate very differently. You can 100% make it in this life by doing organic and just having your own cash flow on hand and funding your own inventory orders. It's just gonna take longer, it's gonna be slower. But you have to understand too, it's like, if you look at Apple just took out a loan, I believe last year in 2022 for $8.6 billion. It's Apple, they're sitting on like $180 billion in cash. Why would they take out an $8.6 billion loan? Right? Using other people's money so that cash can work to their favor. Look at Tesla. I believe it was back in 2012. You can look it up yourself. They got a government loan for $265 million. So it's like, these companies, why are they taking out these huge loans, right? It's leverage. At the end of the day, everything is leverage. And if you don't understand leverage, you're not gonna understand how to operate in a business. Time is leverage. My time in the business, when I hire an employee to take over email marketing that I used to do, I get to leverage my own time to do something else, to work on greater tasks now, because my employee is taking that off my plate. It goes the same thing with money. Money is leverage. If you use money to buy even more inventory that I could with my own cash on hand, I'm able to sell even more. That is leverage. So you need to understand leverage is key in a business, and you need to understand how to use leverage in order to scale at a high rate. So again, this is what's worked well for me. There's so many different ways to go out there and finance things in today's world. But if you're an e-commerce brand owner out there, especially owning a physical product company, which I'm assuming you are a brand owner of a clothing brand out there if you're watching this video, this is what has worked so well for me. And if you guys have any questions at all, please leave a comment down below. Like I said, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to provide you guys videos with the videos that I wish I would have had 5 years ago. So if you guys did enjoy today's video, definitely give me a like. If you don't know my story, again, it's in the description box down below. Click one of the 2 videos up here that pop up on the screen. Watch some of my other content. I've got a ton of value out there, guys. So love you all. God bless. See you in the next one.